The Zephyrian interrogation chamber hummed with malevolent energy as Commander Vextar circled the human strapped to the neural extraction chair. The prisoner's eyes remained defiant, despite 3 cycles of their most advanced torture protocols. Most species broke within hours. This one had endured for weeks. "Your resistance is admirable but futile," Vextar hissed through his translator, his scaled head tilting in what passed for curiosity among his kind. "We have extracted the strategic locations of 17 human colonies from your mind already. Why continue this suffering?" The human, identified in their records as Captain Marcus Chen of the Terran Defense Force, managed a blood-stained smile. "Because you don't understand what you've actually found." Vextar's membrane-covered eyes narrowed. The neural scans showed the human's pain receptors firing at levels that should have rendered him catatonic, yet he spoke with disturbing clarity. It was unnatural. "Explain," the commander ordered. Chen's laugh was raw but genuine. "Those 17 colonies. They're not strategic locations, reptile, they're bait. The Zephyrian Empire had dominated this sector for 3 millennia through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Their neural extraction techniques could pierce any mind. Their war fleets could crack planets, and their intelligence network spanned hundreds of systems. When humanity had stumbled into their territory 5 years ago, they'd been dismissed as another primitive species ripe for subjugation. That assessment had proven incomplete. "Impossible," Vexitar snarled. "Our psychic probes cannot extract false memories. The information is authentic." "Oh, it's authentic all right," Chen wheezed. "Every single one of those colonies exists exactly where I remember them. Populated by real humans, defended by real ships, full of real infrastructure." His eyes glittered with something that made the seasoned interrogator step back. "You just never asked the right question. Which is, why would a mid-level frigate captain know the locations of 17 colonies?" The implication struck Vextar like a plasma bolt. He spun toward his communication array, claws scrambling over the controls. The holographic display materialized, showing the current positions of their assault fleets, all 17 of them, currently approaching what intelligence had designated as critical human strongholds. Chen watched the aliens' growing panic with satisfaction. "Humans have this thing called compartmentalized intelligence, you see. Captains like me only know what we need to know for our specific missions, except," he coughed, tasting copper, "except when we volunteer for special assignments." The truth crystallized in Vextar's mind with horrible clarity. "You allowed yourself to be captured." "Gold star for the lizard," Chen grinned, "though I have to say your hospitality could use work." On the display, automated distress signals began flooding in from the assault fleets. What they'd expected to find were lightly defended colony worlds. What they'd actually found were heavily fortified military installations that had been evacuating their civilian populations for months while stockpiling weapons and laying traps. But that wasn't the worst part. "Admiral Korth to command," crackled through the communication array. The leader of their 3rd fleet sounded genuinely shaken. "The humans, they knew we were coming. All of them. They were ready. And Commander," his voice dropped to a whisper, "they're not just defending, they're broadcasting something, some kind of signal." Chen's smile widened. "Did I forget to mention? Humans are really good at multitasking." Vextar's blood ran cold as his tactical display lit up with new contacts. Hundreds of them approaching from deep space, a human fleet larger than anything in their intelligence reports. The broadcasts from the embattled colonies weren't distress calls. They were targeting data. "Every ship in your assault fleets is now painted with active targeting beacons," Chen explained conversationally, as if discussing the weather. 17 different frequencies, 17 different approach vectors, all feeding real-time positioning. Data to the biggest human fleet ever assembled. He paused, studying the alien commander's expression. "We call it Operation Mousetrap." The first human ships began dropping out of hyperspace, sleek, predatory vessels that moved with disturbing coordination. Their weapon systems were already locked onto the scattered Zephyrian fleets, whose commanders had been lured exactly where humanity wanted them. "This is impossible," Vextar breathed. Your species lacks the tactical sophistication for such deception. Our psychological profiles were based on our diplomats and merchants, Chen interrupted. The people we wanted you to meet. Funny thing about humans, we're really good at showing people exactly what we want them to see. His restraints creaked as he leaned forward. Did you know that our primitive vessels have been carrying concealed sensor arrays this whole time? Every ship that's passed through your territory for 5 years has been mapping your defenses, cataloging your fleet positions, studying your tactics. The holographic display now showed the full scope of the disaster. 17 separate Zephyrian fleets caught in prepared kill zones being systematically destroyed by human forces that had materialized as if from nowhere. Worse, the humans weren't just attacking, they were capturing key vessels intact, clearly intent on studying Zephyrian technology. You sacrificed yourself for this, Vextar said, a note of something almost like respect creeping into his voice. Chen shook his head. That's where you're wrong, Commander. See, humans have this other thing we're good at. Rescue operations. He glanced at his restraints with amusement. I figure I've got maybe 10 minutes before my backup arrives. You might want to consider surrender. As if summoned by his words, the facility's defensive systems began wailing alerts. Human strike teams had somehow penetrated their most secure installation. Vextar stared at the human prisoner, this unremarkable-looking being who had just orchestrated the collapse of the most powerful fleet the Zephyrian Empire had assembled in centuries, who had endured weeks of torture while calculating the precise timing needed to spring a trap spanning multiple star systems. What are you? The alien whispered. Chen's smile was almost gentle. We're human, Commander. We're persistence predators who learn to hunt in packs across the stars. We're storytellers who can lie to your psychic probes by believing our own deceptions. We're social creatures who will sacrifice everything for our tribe. The sound of human weapons fire echoed through the corridors. And most importantly, we're the species that never learned when to quit. The interrogation chamber door exploded inward as human soldiers poured through, their weapons trained on the stunned Zephyrian. Chen looked up at his rescuers with tired satisfaction. Took you long enough, he said. Behind them, through the facility's viewports, the burning remains of the Zephyrian Empire's greatest fleet painted the stars in funeral colors. The balance of power in the sector had just shifted decisively, and it had all started with one human's willingness to endure the unendurable for a chance to turn their enemy's greatest strength against them. In the weeks that followed, as the Zephyrian Empire crumbled under coordinated human offensives, xenobiologists would write papers about humanity's unique capacity for strategic deception. Military historians would analyze the brilliant simplicity of Operation Mousetrap. Psychologists would debate how a species could simultaneously embody such contradictory traits, compassion and ruthlessness, cooperation and cunning. But in that moment, as Captain Marcus Chen was helped from the neural extraction chair, the truth was simpler than any academic analysis could capture. They had tried to break a human. Instead, they had learned what humans do to those who threaten their pack the end.